But we can talk to Ian Blackford, the SNP's Westminster leader. Welcome to you. What would a good result for the SNP look like, Ian?
Well, look, at the end of the day, I think the important story from Scotland is the fact that the Tories are being rejected. Their vote is down. And I think what really is important today is that the voters have sent a message to Boris Johnson. And I think really there's two things that count. One is, of course, the cost of living crisis. More needs to be done. And the other issue is Partygate. And I think people in Scotland have made it very clear that they want no more of this from Boris Johnson and his Conservatives. So I think you're going to find today it's a very clear message. And I'm sure this is going to be a day where we can celebrate the fact that the Tories have got the message that we expected.
One of your key pledges, of course, is another referendum on Scottish independence, latest by the end of next year. How are you going to deliver that, Ian?
Well, let's get the elections out the way today, Joe, and then we can move on.
Well, no, come on, because it's a central part. It's a central part of the SNP. It's what you are there to deliver and promise your supporters. I'm just interested in how it can happen practically by the end of next year.
So I was just going to go on and explain that. What you'll see the government in Edinburgh doing over the course of the coming months is bringing out a number of papers, setting out the vision of how we can create that greener Scotland, how we can develop our energy resources, for example, how we can deliver a fairer Scotland and one where we drive investment into the economy. And of course, that means Scotland becoming an independent country and being in the European Union. So we will lay out that vision. We'll engage with the voters in Scotland. We'll ask those on the unionist side to debate those issues with us as well.
Yes.
But I think the very clear message, Joe, and my message to whether it's Boris Johnson or anyone else in number 10,
yes,
that they have to respect democracy, and they have to respect that in the elections to the Scottish Parliament last year, there was a pro-independence majority. Both ourselves and the Greens stood on a platform of delivering a Scottish referendum. We're now seeing the costs of Brexit, what the damage that's done to our industries, the impact of food inflation that we've had from Brexit. And Westminster has to realise that voters in Scotland have a right to have that discussion, that debate,
yes,
in that vote on Scottish independence before the end of 2023.
Yes, but the thing is, having a debate, and you say you're certainly doing the work around the economic prospectus of an independent Scotland. An independent Scotland wants to rejoin the EU and make that application. That will take time. Then, of course, there is the issue of the border between an independent Scotland and the rest of the UK, as well as setting out the currency. That's a lot of work that needs to be done between now and the end of 2023. Can you give me a cast-iron guarantee that this referendum is going to happen?
Well, we have a mandate for that referendum, and we absolutely fully intend to make sure that it happens.
Right.
It's a promise from us, and we need Westminster to recognise that the people of Scotland have that sovereign right to have that referendum. We will lay out the perspectives, and all these questions that you put there,
yes, we
will happily answer in detail over the course of the coming months. It's about having that positive vision that we can sell to the people of Scotland, how we can drive investment into the economy.
As you know, Westminster continues.
I'm happy to go through all these questions that you've asked.
Well, why not? Why not now? Actually, I'm not sure we have all that much time. But on this issue of the legal advice, should the Scottish Government now publish any legal advice they receive about another referendum?
Well, you'll know that the Information Commissioner has laid a challenge to the Scottish Government that we have to respond by the 10th of June, I think it is.
Yes, it is.
The First Minister will do that. You'll know, Joe, the difficulties that any government has, that any legal advice that it gets is...
So is that a yes or a no, then?
Well, what I'm saying is that the First Minister will give her answer to that by the 10th of June. We'll carefully consider what the Information Commissioner has
Well, the Information Commissioner has said publish the legal advice.
And of course, you know that the Scottish Government will look at the determination that the Commissioner has made, has the right of appeal if it chooses to make it. But at the end of the day, the fundamental issue of all of this is the right of people of Scotland to have a referendum and for Westminster to respect the sovereign wishes of the Scottish people. That's the key issue.
But in the meantime, if the government, and it shows no signs of moving away from its position of saying there's been an independence referendum, we're not going to grant permission for another one. So will you take the UK government to court over this? Well,
you know, the simple fact of the matter is, let's wait and see what happens today. But I suspect the SNP are going to be the largest party by some way in this election.
So what's your plan?
We've won every election for the last few years. Is Boris Johnson or anyone else in number 10 really going to deny democracy?
Well, on the basis of what we know so far, yes, in that sense. So what are you going to do?
Oh, you should be asking that question to Boris Johnson.
Oh, I'd
then,
love
because
to. I'd
it's-
love to, Ian. But
it's
what are you
utterly
going to do in the
ridiculous.
meantime?
It's utterly ridiculous. Let me just say that when you win an election on a prospectus of having a referendum, that when you have someone else in another parliament in Westminster that seeks to frustrate democracy, that's really quite a serious issue. So the question is for Boris Johnson and others, why will they not respect the results in a democratic election?
All right.
Because that's the issue.
Well, maybe it's because a lot of people in Scotland would say, focus less on the issue of another independence referendum and focus on the issues around the cost of living and the responsibilities that the Scottish Government actually has in terms of health of education. Hang on just one second, Ian, because I'm going to show our viewers, and I will take you through this latest graph on Scottish councils. We're looking at Glasgow, and this is the first preference share change since 2017. And as an indication of whether people are happy with the SNP government, it's gone up 1% for Labour, this first preference share change since the last time it was contested. Obviously, an absolutely critical council of Glasgow. It's gone down 7% for the SNP. What does that say to you?
Well, I think you can judge us at the end of the day when we've got the
Well, no,
vote
let's just
share
judge you on
Blackford.
Glasgow. Let's just judge you on Glasgow, because Glasgow is extremely important in terms of the battle between you and the Labour Party.
Joe, with respect, we're very early in terms of the declarations. We're picking up seats all across the country, and indeed we've picked up one seat in Glasgow as things stand at the moment. But, you know, when you talk about dealing with the cost of living crisis, what we have done is that we've increased benefits that are under our control, the Scottish benefits, by 6%, double what has been done by Westminster. We've introduced the child payment.
Yeah.
Initially £10, then it's increased to 20, and now it's going up to 25. We're taking meaningful action where we've got responsibility to seek to protect people. And it's the fact that Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak are asleep at the wheel, where people are having to make tough choices as to whether or not they can put food on the table or whether they can heat their homes. Westminster needs to recognise that we're in the teeth of a real crisis. Inflation is spiralling, let's be out of control. And action is required now. Next week, when we have the Queen's Speech debate, the government should be coming forward with measures now that put cash in people's pockets. The idea of giving people a loan in October simply doesn't cut it.
All right.
So Westminster needs to accept its responsibilities. We're doing our bit. And I'll tell you what, if Scotland was independent, then we'd be doing an awful lot more now to protect people from this cost of living crisis. All
right, well, we'll have to talk again, won't we, about that prospectus for independence that you've yet to unveil. Ian Blackford there, thank you very much, the SNP's leader at Westminster. Let's talk to Vicky Young. Listening to that, I mean, it really is a stalemate, isn't it, on the issue of that second independence referendum. But a lot of people will no doubt be shouting at the screen, what about the issues that the Scottish Government does actually have control over? And these elections, these local elections, are also a referendum on how local services are run.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, you know, that's often lost, isn't it, in the debate. When we're looking at it from a UK point of view, we talk about the referendum, about the future of Scotland and its place in the United Kingdom. But of course, for the SNP, who have been in power now for so long, I think it is slightly changing a little bit. I think there is more focus on what they've done and what they haven't done when it comes to education. I think we saw during the COVID pandemic, of course, that focus on health and what decisions were being made in Scotland. So I think they're coming under a little more pressure, the SNP, about what they're delivering in terms of those domestic services, if you like. And then going back to that issue of the referendum, and I can't see any scenario in which Boris Johnson is going to allow that to happen. I just can't see it happening. And I think there is a question for the SNP about when they want it to happen, the timing, because of course, for very obvious reasons, they want to have it at a time when they think they can win it. And it certainly isn't clear cut at the moment that that is the case.
Vicky Young, BBC's Deputy Political Editor, thank you very much for keeping me company